Have you ever looked at someone and assumed they were just another stranger passing by? What if that stranger was carrying a story so heartbreaking that it could change your life forever? One cold evening, a single dad sat outside a small restaurant finishing his dinner. He thought it would be just another ordinary night. But when a homeless girl quietly walked up to his table and asked a simple question, neither of them knew that one small act of kindness was about to change everything. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Heart Kindness Tales, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stories like this remind us that even the smallest act of kindness can create a ripple that reaches farther than we ever imagine. The evening air was chilly in a small town in Ohio. The streets glowed under the soft yellow lights hanging above the sidewalks. People hurried home after work, carrying shopping bags and warm cups of coffee. At a small restaurant on Main Street, 34-year-old Michael sat alone at an outdoor table. In front of him was a bowl of soup and half a sandwich. He looked tired. Life had not been easy for Michael. 2 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a long illness. Since then, he had been raising his 8-year-old son, Ethan, by himself. Every day felt like a race. He worked long hours as a mechanic, picked Ethan up from school, helped with homework, cooked dinner, and somehow tried to keep life together. That evening, Ethan was spending the night at a friend's house, giving Michael one rare night to himself. As he sat quietly finishing his meal, he noticed movement beside his table. A teenage girl stood there. She looked about 15 years old. Her oversized jacket was worn and dirty. Her shoes were torn. A faded backpack hung from one shoulder. She looked nervous. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then, in a soft voice, she asked, "Sir, can I eat what you didn't finish?" Michael froze. The question hit him harder than he expected. The girl wasn't asking for money. She wasn't asking for sympathy. She was simply hungry. Michael looked at the half sandwich on his plate. Then he looked at her face. Her eyes showed embarrassment, fear, and exhaustion. No child should ever have to ask a stranger for leftovers. "What's your name?" Michael asked gently. "Lily," she replied. "When was the last time you had a real meal, Lily?" She lowered her eyes. "Yesterday morning." Michael felt a knot form in his chest. Without hesitation, he stood up. "Come inside with me." Lily looked confused. "You don't have to do that," she whispered. "I know," Michael said with a smile. "But I want to." A few minutes later, they sat at a booth inside the restaurant. Michael ordered a hot meal, a drink, and dessert. At first, Lily ate slowly, almost as if she expected someone to take the food away. Then hunger took over. She ate every bite. Michael tried not to stare. He simply sat there and listened. Little by little, Lily shared her story. Her mother had struggled with addiction for years. Her father had disappeared when she was a child. After several difficult situations, Lily had ended up living on the streets. She spent nights in shelters when space was available. Other nights, she slept wherever she could find safety. She had no one. No family. No home. No support. Michael's heart broke. As a father, he couldn't imagine Ethan facing life alone like that. When they finished eating, Michael paid the bill. Then he walked Lily to a nearby youth shelter. Before leaving, he handed her a small card. It contained his phone number. "If you ever need help finding food," he said, "call me." Lily looked surprised. "Why are you helping me?" Michael thought for a moment. Then he answered honestly. "Because someone should." Lily nodded. Tears filled her eyes. That simple encounter should have ended there. But it didn't. Over the next few months, Lily occasionally called Michael. Sometimes she needed food. Sometimes she needed advice. Sometimes she simply needed someone to talk to. Michael never tried to replace her parents. He simply became a steady presence in her life. Someone who listened. Someone who cared. Someone who showed up. Slowly, Lily began making changes. With help from social workers, she enrolled in school again. Her grades improved. She joined after-school programs. For the first time in years, she started believing she might have a future. Meanwhile, Ethan met Lily and quickly became her friend. The three of them occasionally shared meals together. Laughter slowly replaced the sadness Lily had carried for so long. One day, nearly a year after they first met, Lily arrived at Michael's house carrying an envelope. "What's this?" Michael asked. "Open it," she said. Inside was a letter. Michael began reading. As he read, his eyes filled with tears. The letter explained that Lily had earned a scholarship from a local community program. Her teachers described her as hardworking, resilient, and compassionate. At the bottom was a handwritten note. It read, "A year ago, I asked if I could eat what you didn't finish. You could have ignored me like everyone else did. Instead, you treated me like I mattered. You gave me more than food. You gave me hope. Because of your kindness, I started believing in myself again. Thank you for changing my life." Michael struggled to speak. Lily smiled through tears. "You changed everything," she said. Michael shook his head. "No, Lily. You changed your own life. I just opened a door." Years passed. Lily graduated high school with honors. Later, she attended college and studied social work. She wanted to help young people facing the same struggles she once faced. One afternoon, after graduating, she stood in front of a room full of students and shared her story. She told them about hunger. She told them about loneliness. She told them about sleeping in shelters. Then she told them about a single dad sitting outside a restaurant. A man who chose kindness when he had every reason to focus only on his own problems. A man who proved that one small act of compassion can create a future someone never thought possible. The room was silent. Many people were crying. Because deep down, everyone understood the lesson. Kindness isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's a warm meal. A listening ear. A phone call. A simple decision to care. That night, Michael sat on his porch watching the sunset. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Lily. It simply said, "Thank you for seeing me when nobody else did." Michael smiled. And in that moment, he realized something important. The greatest gift we can give another person is not money, success, or possessions. It is making them feel seen. Making them feel valued. Making them feel human. Because one act of kindness may seem small to you, but to someone else, it could be the moment that changes their entire life. And maybe that's the true power of kindness. Not just changing a day. Not just changing a moment. But changing a future. If this story touched your heart, remember to spread kindness wherever you go. You never know who might be waiting for a little hope, a little compassion, or a simple reminder that they matter. And sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can become the beginning of someone else's miracle. The room was silent after Lily finished reading the letter. Michael wiped his eyes and looked away, trying to hide his emotions. But it was impossible. For the first time since losing his wife, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. That night, after Lily left, Michael sat at the kitchen table while Ethan finished his homework. "Dad," Ethan said softly, "do you think Mom would be proud of us?" Michael looked at his son and smiled. "I think she'd be very proud." Ethan nodded. "I think she'd be proud of Lily too." Michael couldn't help but agree. Over the next few years, Lily continued working hard. She balanced school, part-time jobs, and volunteer work at local shelters. She never forgot where she came from. While many people wanted to leave their painful past behind, Lily chose something different. She used it to help others. Every weekend, she volunteered at the same youth shelter where Michael had taken her that first night. Whenever a frightened teenager arrived, Lily understood exactly how they felt. She knew the fear. She knew the loneliness. And she knew how powerful a little kindness could be. One rainy evening, a young boy named Tyler arrived at the shelter. He looked scared and exhausted. He reminded Lily of herself years earlier. As she handed him a warm meal, he asked quietly, "Why are you being nice to me?" The question instantly took her back to that restaurant. Back to that cold night. Back to the moment everything changed. Lily smiled. Because someone was nice to me when I needed it most. The boy looked down at his food. For the first time that evening, he smiled. At that moment, Lily understood something important. Kindness doesn't stop with one person. It keeps moving. One act becomes another. Then another. Like ripples spreading across water. Months later, Lily graduated from college. Michael and Ethan sat proudly in the front row during the ceremony. When Lily's name was called, the crowd erupted into applause. Michael stood and cheered louder than anyone. After the ceremony, Lily ran over and hugged him tightly. "You did it," Michael said. "We did it," Lily replied. That answer touched him deeply. Because in many ways, they really had done it together. Years earlier, both of them had been broken in different ways. Michael was grieving. Lily was surviving. Yet somehow, through one unexpected encounter, they had helped heal each other. Several months later, Lily accepted a full-time position as a social worker. Her first project was creating a community outreach program for homeless youth. The program provided meals, school support, counseling, and emergency housing. The local newspaper wrote a feature story about her work. The article quickly gained attention throughout the city. One afternoon, Lily received an unexpected phone call. A woman introduced herself as a television producer. "We heard your story," she said. "Would you be willing to share it on our program?" Lily hesitated. She had never wanted attention. But then she thought about all the young people who felt invisible. If her story could help them, it was worth sharing. A few weeks later, she appeared on national television. Millions of viewers listened as she described her journey. Then she told the audience about a single father sitting outside a restaurant. She explained how one meal had changed her life. By the end of the interview, many people were in tears. Donations poured into shelters across the country. Volunteers signed up in record numbers. People began sharing stories of kindness in their own communities. What started as a simple act between two strangers was now inspiring thousands. Later that evening, Michael watched the interview from his living room. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Friends, neighbors, and co-workers kept calling. Every one of them said the same thing. "We saw Lily's story." Michael smiled but remained humble. He didn't feel like a hero. Because in his mind, he had simply done what any decent person should do. But Lily saw it differently. A week later, she invited Michael and Ethan to a special event. When they arrived, they discovered a new youth center standing in the middle of town. A large crowd had gathered outside. Lily stepped onto the stage. Then she pointed toward the building behind her. Above the entrance was a sign. The Michael Carter Youth Center. Michael froze. His eyes widened. "What is this?" he whispered. Lily smiled through tears. "This is for the man who taught me that kindness can save lives." The crowd applauded. Michael stood speechless. For several moments, he couldn't say a word. Finally, he stepped forward. Looking at the crowd, he spoke from his heart. I didn't change Lily's life. I simply noticed someone who needed help. Every day, we pass people who are hurting. Most of the time, they don't need miracles. They just need someone to care. The audience stood and applauded. Many were crying. Because everyone understood the truth in his words. Kindness isn't complicated. It doesn't require wealth. It doesn't require power. It only requires a willing heart. As the sun began setting behind the new youth center, Michael looked around. Children were laughing. Families were smiling. Volunteers were greeting newcomers. Hope filled the air. And all of it began with one simple question spoken by a hungry homeless girl. Can I eat what you didn't finish? A question that could have been ignored. A moment that could have been forgotten. Instead, it became the beginning of countless new stories. Stories of hope. Stories of second chances. Stories of kindness. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. You never know how much your kindness matters. A smile. A meal. A helping hand. A few caring words. To you, it may feel small. To someone else, it may mean everything. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness creates the biggest miracle. Red Heart.